Good morning, guys. So it's almost afternoon out here on the West Coast. I was about to say East Coast. West Coast, you guys. And I'm so happy because I get to do this video and talk to you guys about filmmaking, one of my biggest passions, because mental health isn't my only passion, of course, and helping the Black community and giving back aren't my only passion. So filmmaking is actually at the top of the list. One of the things that are at the top of the list that I love to do. And for a while, for a period of time, I actually took a hiatus from the field of mental health to just explore different opportunities and different things. And I was living in Atlanta, Georgia, when I got my very first role in a big budget film production. Now, it wasn't a speaking role, it wasn't a principal actor role, but for me, it was major because I was working alongside major celebrities and I got to experience what it's like to create a film behind the scenes. Like, to me, that's always been the most fascinating thing ever when it comes to movies. More than watching a movie itself, is seeing how the movie is made or was made. Now, it's interesting because, like, even when I hang out with friends and we watch movies or documentaries, like, sometimes they get annoyed because I am the person, like, when we're watching the movies at home, on a DVD, I am the kind of person where I don't necessarily want, not that I don't want to see the movie, but I go to the special features first because I want to see how the movie is made. I want to see the behind the scenes action of the movie or the documentary that I'm watching before I actually watch the documentary or the movie. Like, that's just me. And my friend's like, no, you're going to spoil it. You're going to ruin it. I'm just like, no, for me, it motivates me and it makes me want to see the movie even more when I get to see, okay, what is the movie about? Get to see the actors and the interviews that the actors did and the director, and just learn about the process of the film and what went into writing the script. Like, that's what interests me the most, and seeing that, like, I realized, okay, yeah, I'm a filmmaker at heart because that's just me. And so, like I was saying, I moved to Atlanta back in 2011. I always have to think, because I'm like, dang, I kind of been different places. I lived in Atlanta, I live in New York City, now I'm out here in LA. So I moved to Atlanta in 2011, at the beginning of 2011, and I was so blessed to have gotten invited to work on, I think the very first movie that I actually worked on was Joyful Noise, y'all. And looking back, like, I feel like it's just a blessing. But I have a lot of, like, memorabilia from being a background actor on the movie, just all kinds of stuff. Like, I have a whole collection of, like, all the movies and the television shows that I worked on, and it's just like my little memorabilia type of wall thing. But maybe I'll show it to you guys one day. But anyway, so yeah, it was really nice. And for you guys who don't know, some of you guys were like, what's Joyful Noise? It's a movie starring Queen Latifah, Dolly Parton, Keke Palmer, and Kirk Franklin. A really great movie. It's one of those, like, I guess, Christian movies, so to speak. But I had a lot of fun. I think I worked on that film for maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 days. And it was interesting because the scene that I worked in, we were actually part of the competition. Like, I was in the audience, and, like, where they were having, like, a competition between different choirs, right? In the movie, and I had so much fun. Like, I remember all of the songs, and, like, the thing about when you're creating a film, and I'm gonna talk about in this video the different aspects of creating a film, from the screenplay to choosing the cast members, choosing the producers, choosing, like, everyone, from pre to post production, like choosing all of the major players, and just scouting locations, costumes, just like all of that. I'm gonna try to cover all of that in this video, you guys, so keep watching. And so, where was I at? So yeah, in the film, the scene I was in was where they were having, like, the choir competition. And yeah, I remember, like, the songs that we were singing you know, we kind of rehearse them over and over again. And that's the thing I was saying, like when it comes to making a film, like shooting a scene, you guys may see like the scene may last like 2 or 3 minutes, but it may take like a full 12, 14 hour day just to shoot that 1, 2, 3 minute scene. Like it's amazing. And so I remember like we spent the entire freaking day shooting this scene, and I worked on several scenes actually in the movie. And that, like, being that we had to do so many different takes of it, I remember just being able to remember all of the songs, you know, and I actually have the soundtrack for the movie. Like, I love that soundtrack because it's just one of my favorites. And I learned all of the songs, like, by heart, you know, word from word, because we rehearsed the scene so many times, you know, and we, you know, shot the scene so many times. So, like, I was just so amazed by the process. And then, like, at the end of the day, when we wrap, I saw everybody like running upstairs. I'm like, where is everybody going? Right? And they're like, we're going to get our paycheck. And I'm like, wait a minute, we get paid for this? And they're like, yeah, like you get paid for this. I had no clue. I think I had so much fun working as a background actor on that film. Like, I didn't even know, like, you get paid just for having so much fun. I'm like, this is work. So I learned something new that day. And we went upstairs and we had to fill out this form, paperwork or whatever. And then I think they end up mailing us a check like within 1 or 2 weeks. And I'm just like, okay. And so that was the first film, Joyful Noise. And then I believe the second film was Las Vegas, starring Morgan Freeman. Oh my gosh, I can't remember the guy's name. I feel bad now. You guys have to look it up. Sorry for forgetting his name, but it's very prominent actors in Hollywood, and I can't remember. Y'all, I am bad with names. Sorry if I don't say your name often, or I don't see you often, then I just forget your name. But sorry. So, you know, I just know like one of the main actors was Morgan Freeman, because I had actually a scene with him in that movie Las Vegas, where like he was. It kind of follows the life of like, I think 4 older men who end up like going to Vegas, and I think there's a wedding or some type of party or something. And so I was at the party, right? And the guys were getting ready to go out on the floor. Morgan Freeman was like, all right, come on, let's go out and, you know, have some fun. And so I'm like right there at a table where he was sitting in the club, and like I kind of stumbled because he was coming towards me, and it was just a weird kind of like little dance that we did. Like, it's like, whoa. I remember like catching myself like, oh shit, I hope I don't fall. And I remember like wearing these heels because a lot of people try to undermine the importance of the background actors. They're like, oh, they ain't nobody, or they just, you know, people that they pulled off the street or whatever. But no. Let me educate you guys who don't know. Background actors are up-and-coming actors. Now, granted, I don't necessarily want to be an actor. That's not really my thing. But being that I worked as a background actor, I was surrounded by other actors, up-and-coming actors who actually want principal roles, speaking roles in major films. And so I was exposed to all kinds of talent. And I remember, like, the background actors, believe it or not, we go through the same type of routine as the principal actors. So we have wardrobe, we have makeup, you know, we have like attention from the directors. They come and speak to us and tell us, this is what we want you to do. This is how you want, oh, come on. This is how we want you to walk. This is a movement we want you to take, you know, in the frame. Like, they give us direction just as much as they give the principal actors direction, because the thing about making a major big budget film is like every single part you see on screen is strategically designed. It's by design. I'm talking about big budget. I ain't talking about the little smaller budget. They kind of throw things together, you know, because they don't have much experience or even that much money. I'm talking about the big budget, like multi-million-dollar films. It's a lot that goes into it, you guys. And so, yeah, they coordinate like the action and how they want the background action to look, to how they want us to move, what they want us to dress like. And I remember for Las Vegas specifically, they had me wearing this short ass gold dress. Now, they had all of the women in that film who were background actors wearing like these very like skimpy little dresses, and y'all know me, like, look, this is how I dress. I'm like a plain Jane. Like, this is what I feel comfortable in. You know, I wear my jeans, t-shirt, like, this is me. But I had to do something different for that particular film, and I'm just like, it was awkward, you know, because I'm wearing this like skimpy, tight-fitting gold dress with heels, and like having to walk in heels, and I don't really wear heels. I don't wear heels. I wear like flat shoes, and because I'm already kind of tall. I'm almost near like 5'9", you know, 5'8.5", and I'm just like, this is crazy. And I remember like Morgan Freeman, in the scene that I did with him, we were like kind of rehearsing. He came out and he was like, oh, Christmas in October or something. Like, because I think we shot the film in October. He was like, oh, Christmas in October. He was looking around like at all the young women. And I'm like, look at his little freaky ass, Morgan Freeman. But that was a lot of fun. Like, that's the thing about filmmaking that I love. Like, it's so much fun. I always say this, like, that's the best job that I've ever had, I believe, because you get to be yourself. You know, it allows you to be yourself without judgment, because you're just surrounded by so many different creatives. You know, granted, I love, you know, working as a therapist. Don't get me, because I like giving back and I like helping people reach their goals, but it's just something really special also about the world of filmmaking. And so that was that. I've also worked alongside Tyler Perry. You know, I did some voiceovers, like laugh track for his television show, For Better or Worse. His series that he did for OWN, like where he interviewed the actors, the cast from The Have and Have Nots. I was on that. Like, I've been, to be honest, you guys, I kind of lost track of like all of the things I've done. I mean, I did actually start like a kind of a resume, I guess, a film resume. So I have to actually reference that. I don't have it with me, but some of the things I've done, I don't remember every single thing, but I'm just gonna kind of go and briefly, you know, share with you guys like some of the major ones that I kind of stuck in my memory that I do remember. So Joyful Noise, Las Vegas, those were films. And then TV shows, For Better or Worse, I did The Have and the Have Nots. Like, it was a cast interview. I was on that, and it was featured on OWN, Oprah's Winfrey Network. I worked on Vampire Diaries. That was pretty cool, like kind of gothic-y and different. And I forget the main actress's name. She was black, though. One of the main actors on the Vampire Diaries, which I realized, I think they discontinued it. I think they had like 5 seasons or 5 or 6 seasons, and I think it's now discontinued. I guess people just wasn't watching it. But it was like one of the popular shows back then. It was filmed in Atlanta. That was pretty cool. I can remember one of the scenes that I was in, like they had us freezing. It was cold. Like, Atlanta get cold, y'all. People think like cold is only relegated to like the north, but no. It gets really pretty much cold down south too, in certain parts of the south, like Atlanta. And it was cold. I think it was like in the teens. It was like 10 degrees, y'all. Like 10, 12 degrees. And I'm just like, oh, it's freaking cold. And I remember it felt like they had us doing like this ritual. Like, these are the background actors they had us doing. Like, we were outside in the cold, and I remember like to protect us from like frostbite, they gave us like these gloves and like these warmers to put in our hands and then like in our shoes, you know, to warm our hands and our feet. But I mean, it kind of helped a little bit, but it was like I was still cold, and they had us like around these fires, and like they had us doing like this chant. Like, it was weird, but I was like, okay, whatever for the shot, right? That's like the little kind of mantra they say in filmmaking. Do whatever you got to do for the shot. And so, yeah, that was an all-day adventure, and did that. What else? Oh my gosh, other TV shows. So many, y'all. Like, that was like my little life back then when I was in Atlanta. But even like, yeah, I was on The View. I was on what's the Real out here in LA. Like, I've done several things, you know. So working as a background actor, you know, is very exciting, but I don't know if I want to necessarily be an actress. That's not me. But people say that, oh, being a YouTuber, that's kind of like acting. I'm like, I guess so, but I feel like I'm kind of being myself. Like, this is who I am. Take it or leave it. But Yeah, so that's one thing. But I want to kind of talk about like the different aspects of filmmaking. I actually just saw this new movie that came out on Friday called Kinky, you guys, and I did a review on it yesterday because I saw it yesterday. You guys go and watch that review because that movie, actually watching that movie kind of inspired me to do this video because I want to just address different aspects of the process of filmmaking. There's so much that goes into it, and sometimes people from the outside looking in are very critical of that process. You know, they like want to give a film 1 star. It's like, you don't know what it took. No, it may not measure up to what you're used to seeing. And that's the challenge that comes, that filmmakers have to face, is that being that you have big budget companies. I'm talking, when I say big budget, I mean like they spending over 25 million. I'll say over 10 million because you got some nice films that, 15 million. But yeah, like there are some films, I mean, they spend like $500 million to make. And so when you have production studios that set the bar that fucking high, like that's a high bar, like you see like the type of production quality that they have, and then you're like this little up and coming filmmaker, independent filmmaker. It's gonna be hard for you to kind of rise to that occasion, to rise to that standard, but I commend filmmakers, independent filmmakers, for doing it, for jumping out there. I'm like one of them, because you got to start somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Like it take a lot of money to produce the kind of quality of film that people are used to seeing. When I say used to seeing, I'm talking about the very high quality films that you see on the big screen. That takes a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort. There's a lot, and I want to talk about that. So I kind of talked about like, being an actor, but there's different stages. And for you guys who don't know, like I do, other than being like a background actor, I do have some, I'm speaking from a certain type of experience, because before I started my PhD out here in LA, I actually went to film school. And it was pretty challenging, to say the least. But people think that, oh, it's just art, it's easy. Hell no. Ain't nothing easy about that program. Like they challenged us in many different ways. And I was in the filmmaking. I was in like the directing filmmaking program, So you have like programs, filmmaking schools that have different types of programs. They have programs for actors, they have programs for directors, producers. I was in the one for filmmakers, the person who's actually responsible for putting all the pieces together. And that is a huge responsibility. It's so much. There's so many. I didn't realize, like, wow, it's so many different roles to filmmaking outside of the actors and directors. You have line producers, you have, the director of photography, director of cinematography. You have, along with the line producer, is the unit production manager, who's responsible for like the day-to-day operations on set. You have, post-production, you have the editors. Like, oh my gosh, it's so much that goes into it, you guys. And when it comes to putting together a film, of course, it starts with the story. You got to have a great story. That's number one. Starts with the script, the screenplay, whether it's a documentary or a film. That's where it starts, with the story. And I like that because I'm a writer, so I just like that idea. I like saying that, like, it starts with the story. If you don't have a good story, it don't matter how great the cinematography is. It don't matter how good the acting is. Nobody cares. Like, the main thing is the story. Because people sometimes get lost in the theatrics and the bells and whistles of the cinematography, and like, oh, the camera made this movie, nobody cares about that. The story is number one, and then everything else obviously needs to fall into place. And so what I've noticed, like just being a film student and being an observer, kind of behind the scenes of filmmaking, is that every single piece is pertinent to the outcome of the project. It's so important. The movement of the actors, the choice of actors, when it comes to like, okay, you start with the story, of course. When it comes to choosing actors to play the role, you know, of certain characters, it matters. The race, a lot of times I know African Americans kind of complain about, oh, we don't get that many roles. It starts with the story. So if the story is not written for African American characters, then sorry, you're not going to get that role. And yes, I'm pro-black. I'm a black nationalist, but from a filmmaking perspective, even business perspective, it matters the choice of actors. So if you want to see more African American actors in Hollywood, then that would mean that there needs to be more scripts written for those characters, those kinds of characters, people to fit those roles. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. But the choice of actors, whether it's, a black actor, Latina actor, Italian, all of that matters. The height, that matters. And that's just in choosing the cast. Choosing the people who are going to be the crew on the film, from the director of photography to the cinematographers to the AD, the assistant director, to the PAs, the production assistants. They're important because they help support the director on the film, different roles that they have, whether it is making sure that the cords, are out of the way, just, making sure that there's no safety hazards, on set. To the PAs have all kinds of positions, It's funny because I have to like retrieve all of this information because it's kind of like been stored back in the back of my mind because my mind is kind of like thinking mental health and psychology, so I have to kind of dig a little deep there. But let's see, you have, and it's interesting because you would think like the people who have the minor roles, let's say a production assistant or the person who helps the cinematographer or the camera assistant, you think, okay, that's a small role. All they're doing, is just turning a knob on a camera, all they're doing is just measuring the light, because the tools, I didn't even begin to talk about the tools that are used on set in making a film, but you have, light meters, which I think is pretty interesting because when it comes to lighting a set, that's a whole job in and of itself, just lighting, the lighting department. Like there's so many different departments on films, you guys. That's why it's an enterprise in and of itself, a film company. Like it's just so many different moving parts. And so the lighting and making sure that there's the right amount of lighting, because you watch films and you can tell they have terrible lighting, that's low budget, because big budget films, they know better. They have experience, expertise, and they know what's important to the imagery, on screen is the lighting. That's why I think I even like doing my vlogs outside, because outside has the best lighting. Natural lighting is the best. But today it's kind of gloomy. It's a little bit gloomy because it's kind of cloudy outside. But overall, like, yeah, outdoor lighting is the best. And the light meter is a tool that's used, an instrument that's used on set where you can measure the amount of light, whether it is, oh my gosh, I have to pull my memory. I forget, but it's like, there's different kinds of lighting. There's like the lighting that is for nighttime and lighting for daytime. There's technical terms for this, and I should know this. Because I was in a master's program in filmmaking, but like I said, my mind is thinking mental health and psychology. So excuse me, you guys, if I can't remember the technical terms, but I'll do research and I'll drop them below. Okay. So yeah, but it's like, and filmmakers, people who do this like for a living, day to day, they know what I'm talking about. Like lighting for day, lighting for night. And you have to measure the intensity of the lighting, the softness of the lighting. And as I'm talking about lighting, there are different types of lights that are used in filmmaking. And by the way, those lights are hot as hell. I'm talking about hot. I hate it. Like I remember when I was working on those big budget films in Atlanta, and I'm sitting here standing, even though I was a background actor, like we are lit too, you know, like the background is lit, the foreground is lit, all of that matters, y'all. Like it's like very micromanaged when it comes to creating a film. And I hate when I get these notifications. And so they have these lights and the shits is so hot, so hot. Like I think I remember getting a headache one time on set. That shit had my head hurting. Cause I'm like, that's just too much freaking light. But that speaks to the reality that people don't know. What's up, Daryl? That speaks to the reality that just people just don't realize the shit that actors got to go through. You know, like they go through a lot, man. Sometimes hours without eating, you know, because they just have to do certain things for the character, for the role. And that's just, I ain't even really touching the surface of the things that actors have to go through. Sometimes they lose weight, they gain weight, like all kinds of stuff, you know, go through all kind of mistreatment by the director just to put them into the character, to get their mind into the character. Oh, and I even mentioned that there's a lot of psychology that goes into filmmaking, which I think is the reason why I think I like filmmaking so much, because psychology and filmmaking kind of go hand in hand, you know, because it's storytelling, you know, and when you're putting together these parts on set, you know, from the lighting, there's psychology even to the lighting, how bright it is, how dark it is, how much of a person's face is lit, you know, if it's from this part down is lit or this part up, you know, is darker or lighter, or the left side of their face is lighter, darker, lighter. And the thing is, when you're shooting different scenes, being that time elapses, this is something that is really important, because I think it's easier to control when you're in a studio, right? It's easier to control the lighting when you're inside of a studio versus outside in natural lighting, because the sun, the position of the sun changes, which is going to affect the lighting. And so that's where the person with the light meter comes in on set to make sure that it matches. There's a number when you press on the light meter that's going to read the amount of light that's hitting the subject's face. That has to match, you know, because when they're in post-production, they're cutting the scenes together and it don't match. You're going to be like, wait a minute, the lighting is off. And sometimes you guys may not notice, but people who are in filmmaking notice this kind of stuff. You know, you pay attention to it. So that's one thing. And yeah, I remember just the whole lighting when I was in film school. Like, that was kind of fun. I actually liked that part of it. Let's see, the production design, the set design, that is a whole nother beast when it comes to filmmaking, you know, because it's something I actually noticed in the film that I watched last night, Kinky. Have you ever filmed a nude scene? What crew was in the set? Do you do takes or just keep the camera rolling? Daryl, if you don't get off here talking about nude stuff, why are you concerned about that? Why the hell are you concerned about that? Anyway, what was I saying? See, you distracted me. The production and the set design, right? So something I noticed last night when I was watching Kinky is that, okay, number one, the synopsis of the story says that it takes place in it says it takes place in Atlanta, Georgia, and Buckhead, which is a very affluent neighborhood in Atlanta. But I'm like, nah, that's LA all the way. Like, I live in LA, and I'm like, I know LA when I see LA in a movie. You know, everybody know LA when they see LA. You ain't gonna be in filmmaking to know LA when you see LA. And I'm just like, that's LA. The street signs gave it away, because the street signs in LA are blue, and other places they're green. The trees gave it away, and the mountains and the backdrop gave it away, you know. But that goes into the set design. That's natural, of course, but it's still part of the set design. It goes into what people see when they're looking at the screen. They don't just see the actors, you know. And I think sometimes indie filmmakers, they don't take that into consideration, because they think that, oh, they can get away with certain things. No, everything matters. That comes to the psychology, because guess what? In a person's subconscious mind, they're registering what's in the background. Yes, in the foreground is at the forefront of their mind, but in their subconscious mind, the mind is registering palm trees. And then the subconscious mind is like, okay, palm trees don't go with Atlanta. Everybody know, like Atlanta, they don't have palm trees. They may have oak trees and other different kinds of trees, but they don't have palm trees like that in Atlanta, Georgia. So that right there is like creating cognitive dissonance within a person's mind, within the viewer's mind. And if cognitive dissonance is there, then that's automatically going to pull the person, the viewer, out of from watching it, you know, like they're still going to be obviously sitting in the seat, but psychologically they're going to be pulled out of it. You don't want that to happen. You want to keep their interest. Daryl, you say that your film has a nude scene and you're trying to learn. Okay, maybe I'll address that question, but I want to kind of stay on topic because I want to get through this. Because actually I have some things I have to do after this. So yeah, I'm trying to stay on time with things, but I'm gonna come back to your question. Okay, so if you're patient, then I'll come back to it, and you can always come back to this video if you got other shit to do, because I know you do. And you can come back and you'll see the answer to your question. But yeah, production design, it matters. It matters that people can recognize that palm trees don't represent Atlanta, Georgia. Maybe Florida, which is just 6 hours away. If you're going from Atlanta to, well, my hometown, Jacksonville, Florida, is like 6 hours away. But no, people gonna catch that. They gonna catch that. You know, I caught it very easily. And let's see, something else I noticed. Just subtle things. This is subtle things that make the biggest impact, I think, when it comes to the viewer's perception of the movie. You know, like for example, as it relates to the psychology of filmmaking, you know, and the choice of certain pieces on the set in terms of production design and set design, it's like if the story, if the scene in the story is supposed to be, you know, sad or, you know, something like depressing, you know, gloomy and dark, then around what's around the actor should reflect that, because that's going to dictate the mood of that particular scene. Some filmmakers don't think about that. So they'll have, like, it's supposed to be like a dark, sad, you know, scene. Something bad, you know, is supposed to be happening. And then they'll have, like, all this bright stuff in the background, you know? Like, it's just, no, that's contradictory. Unless that's what you want to do. But I remember, like, even my professor in filmmaking school, he said, like, every decision that you make, whether it's on set, while you're in production or in pre-production, needs to have a rationale. It has to be a reason for it. You have to be able to explain it. You can't just be oh, I think this looks cool, or I feel this way, and just choose. No. It has to be a legitimate reason for every decision that is made. Because you think that people watching it ain't going to pick up on it and ain't going to criticize you for it. They notice. They notice. So I talked about actors, lighting, set design. Oh, one of my favorites, cinematography. And part of cinematography obviously is lighting. But when I say cinematography, I'm talking about the choice of camera that you use. And the thing about the time we live in today in 2018, there are so many types of cameras out there, with different price ranges. You know, cameras can go from as low as $20, and I hope y'all ain't using $20 to, but you never know, it might serve a purpose. You know, everything serves a purpose. So some people may want to create a certain look, but you know, $20 cameras to, I'm talking about with big budget films, the cameras they use are well in the thousands of dollars, tens and thousands of dollars, if not over hundreds and thousands of dollars. Like, they are pretty expensive, you know, because they have all different types of tools built inside, you know, that filmmakers need to use, you know. And with that comes the choice of lens, you know, that you're going to use if you want a wide shot, or if you want to do close-ups. Is different types of lenses that are appropriate to choose for whatever type of shot you're trying to get. What else I want to say with respect? Oh yeah. And so with that, when it comes to actually shooting the scene, the movement of the camera is important because there's a psychology to cinematography and how the camera moves, where the camera is positioned, if it's low, if the camera is below the actor. Let's say I'm here, like how I have my camera position, right? Where I'm kind of above the camera, so to speak. That communicates a much different message than if the camera was higher like this, right? And I'm kind of looking up at the camera. It communicates a much different message to the viewer. So camera position, camera movement, camera angles, all of that matters. And I remember as part of my final, how long I've been talking, because I'm gonna try to wrap this up. 30, okay, not too bad. So I remember as part of my final exam in my cinematography class, my cinematographer professor, he was great. He's good. He's worked on different films in Hollywood, so he know his stuff. But a lot of us, I think, when we had to do our final, we was kind of like, damn, man, this motherfucker gave us this hard ass shit. But I remember part of that class, actually, we had to like diagram our scenes, so we had to basically, okay, my broadcast gets interrupted. But yeah, there's a program there's an app for everything, right? And of course, the name of the app is evading my memory because my mind is like mental health right now, psychology right now. So this video I kind of did like on the whim. But yeah, there's an app for diagramming a scene, right? And so with the app, it allows you to, determine or map out where you want to place the cameras, where you want to place the actors, and where you want to place the lights. Camera, actors, lights. And also with that, you can diagram the movement of the actors and the camera. It's interesting kind of stuff. And also you can talk about like the type of lights you want to choose. You can put all of that in the diagram using this app, right? And why is that important? Because when you're the director, the producer, when this is all diagrammed, just like the script, you're going to pass this on to your team, who, when they show up on set, or even not before, you don't actually want to wait till you show up on set to reveal this information. That's why you have production meetings way in advance before you actually shoot whatever you're going to shoot, because everybody need to be on one accord. Everybody need to know, what's happening, because guess what? Time is a factor. Yes, it is. You don't just be like, oh, let's go out and shoot today on Saturday. No, everything is planned down to how long it takes to set the scene up, how long it takes to shoot it, and how long it takes to break it down. Because guess what? Every person on set is getting paid. That's how it works. And typically on big budget film productions, every person is a part of a union. You have the Actors Union, which is a SAG, Screen Actors Guild. You have the Writers Guild, Directors Guild, editors, everybody part of a union, everybody part of a guild. And everybody's getting paid according to what the salary the union sets, right? And this is by the hour. So clock is ticking. You get what I'm saying? We talking about business, money, time is money. And so we ain't got time to waste time, essentially, right? So yeah, that's important to have that diagram when using the app. The app definitely helps to be able to diagram how you want your scene to play out. Now, not to say everything is set in stone and you come with all these production notes on set the day, that you're shooting, and then you have to do things according to this, that nothing can change. It's not that, but it helps to guide the process, because that's important. You don't want to just be all over the place, right? And so, yeah. So we did those like throughout the semester, I think it was like a year-long course, And so that was kind of cool. But for our final, he had us do a reverse engineering of a scene. So we had to do it like it was reverse. So throughout the semester, of course, we would basically diagram a scene using this app and then go out and shoot it, right? And we was responsible for everything: hiring our cast, hiring our crew, paying for the car, everything out of our pockets. That's just how it was in the school I went to. And so for the final, we had to reverse engineer a scene, which means he gave us a scene from, I think, one of his favorite movies, Pulp Fiction, right? And the scene he chose, it was a very convoluted scene, very complicated, had all these fucking moving parts. The camera movement was like, oh my gosh, it was so dynamic. So many actors, background actors, principal actors crossing the frame. The lighting was all different kinds of ways. Like he did it on purpose, right? Because he want to make sure that we really understood this. And by the way, I ended up getting an A in the class because I worked real hard for my A. But I remember just that whole process, and God knows I had to press play and pause like so thousands of times just to make sure I capture every single thing, because we had to capture every single thing. So essentially we had to watch not just one scene, but I think he had us do diagram 2 scenes, if I'm not mistaken, 2 to 3 scenes. Like the final was pretty intense, y'all. You know, they ain't gonna just, you know, give you no degree. They just gonna make sure that you are doing things how you supposed to be doing things. And so, I remember like watching this scene so intensely, you know, because I had to watch it on many different levels. I had to watch it for the lighting to see where the lights were, you know, because you can tell where lights are based on the reflection of the light, you know, how it bounces off whatever object, how it reflects on a person's face or a certain object. You can tell the positioning of the light, the intensity of the light. All of that can be observed when you're watching a film if you're trained the right way. And so I had to watch on many different levels to see for the lighting, to look at the actors' movements, to look at the camera movement. Not only that, but we had to diagram the set pieces. Oh my gosh, I remember. This is like, oh, thank God I'm out of that, because that was a lot. That was pretty. And people think filmmaking is easy. It's not, y'all. It's not. But that's the reason why you have many different people who are a part of a film. You guys go see a film, you look at most people leave during the credits, right? But if you actually take the time to see all those names scroll up on the credits of a film, it's like that for a reason, because one person can't do this shit all. And the difference, when I was in film school, we did it all. They had us doing it all, y'all. It was a challenge, but hey, I got through it. And so, yeah, looking at the camera movement, the lighting placement, the actors movement, looking at the different set pieces, the production design. We had to diagram all of that using this app that he wanted us to use. And that, oh my gosh, it took several hours for me to do it, but I did it. And the scene that he chose, I can't like call the scene, because before he assigned us this final exam, I did not see the movie Pulp Fiction. I probably saw it, like, I don't know, in passing, but I don't really watch. When I say I don't watch movies like that, I don't, y'all. I watch documentaries. I'm a documentary watcher, but not too much of movies. So I can't say, oh, it was this scene. I don't remember. I remember what I kind of think I do remember is like it was like in a hallway, and it was just so much movement, like people going this way. It's like a lot going on in the scene. So it was very challenging, but did nonetheless. And it was like a reverse engineering process. We just had to do it from the back end. So watch the scene and then just kind of diagram what we saw. It was intense. But yeah, so the camera movement is just really spectacular. And what else? I know I'm missing something. Different aspects of filmmaking, because I'm getting tired and I haven't eaten, y'all. Like, I don't know. Sometimes I like skip breakfast and I have brunch. I usually don't eat first thing in the morning. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But best believe I'm about to go smash on some food after this. So what else? My brain is just like, give me a break. Okay. So I talked about actors. I talked about the crew members. I talked about lighting, cinematography, production design. I'm trying to remember. I'm talking about anything else that's like related to the production process. Pre-production is a lot of going on pre-production too. You know, that's when they bring on the, you look at the script and then they bring on the the key players. And a lot of times writers, they have in mind who they want to be the main actor in the movie before the movie like is shot. I mean, obviously before the movie is shot, but I mean, you'll be amazed. Like sometimes we think that the process of filmmaking is linear, but it's not. It's definitely not. It don't really necessarily happen that way. Like how you would think in theory something should happen, or they're supposed to do this and this and A, B, C, D in that order. No. Sometimes things are like done out of order. And for example, like you may read a script and you see that okay, there's a chronological order for these how these events take place, but when it comes to shooting it, they may shoot the last scene first or the first scene last. It's logistics. So that's a whole nother thing when it comes to the pre-production phase, is deciding when, oh, I know I was going to talk about when you're going to shoot what scenes, you know, and the scheduling part. Oh yeah. So I have a few more things I want to talk about, right? So before I talk about scheduling, I want to talk about choosing a location. Location is big, and sometimes that can be one of the most difficult parts, because the location got to be right. And some things that are factored into location choice is the sound, especially if you're shooting outside, even sometimes inside. But sound. Oh, I didn't even talk about sound. Oh my gosh, I should have. You know what I should have did? I should have took notes and so I can guide myself. But I don't have notes. I'm just kind of doing this kind of off the cuff. So, choosing a location. Yeah, sound, y'all. Sound is big when it comes to a film. Sound. I've heard there's a saying that goes like, people will tolerate bad lighting, but you ain't gonna find too many people tolerating bad sound. If your shit got bad sound, you might as well forget about it. And so sound is really important. Thinking about, even when I was shooting my pre-visuals, you guys can go check out my pre-visuals on my website, actually, at danielleleach.com/films, to get an idea of the films that I shot when I was in film school. Yeah, you guys can go see some clips. I did some things. And so I remember, like, not only did I get a chance to experience what it's like being a director and a filmmaker, but I also, part of the program, like, they have us do kind of work on both sides. So we actually work, as the filmmaker, producer, director, and we have to work as crew members, which I ain't really feel that. You have to, we had to rotate, different positions, and that's a good thing because I get to see like all aspects of what it's like, working on film. So I worked as a production assistant. I worked as even a cinematographer. Like I was sitting there behind this big, expensive ass camera. I remember I was working at WB Studios, and I was just sitting there like operating the camera, and I was like, okay, this is kind of cool, but that ain't really my thing. That shit too heavy. And then like it was a scene where my classmate, for their film, part of one of the shots was handheld, and I'm just like, man, had me holding this big, heavy ass fucking camera on my shoulder, and I was like, oh, you gotta do it, this is all about gender equality. They tried to throw that shit in my face. Gender equality, women want your equal rights and shit, so I couldn't use this. I'm a female. I was like, I don't care about you being a female. Get this goddamn camera and hold this camera on your shoulder. So I did that, and that was pretty cool. But yeah, on one of the things I remember for one of my other classmates, like one thing that came into factor was like it had planes like flying over, and so he didn't take that into consideration when he was she didn't take that into consideration when before we got to set, during her pre-production phase. And so we got to set and we got ready to shoot it. She ain't even, when she was scouting location, she didn't take that in consideration. And so we got planes flying over every 10 minutes. So we had to pause and stop and pause and stop and pause, because although the camera movement, everything that happens with the camera is filmed separately from the sound. You record sound and then you record what's happening in front of the camera. The sound recorder picks up everything. Like those mics pick up everything. They're very sensitive, and they can pick up like the airplanes flying over, and we had to pause, and I just prolonged the process that it took to shoot, you know, like we was kind of out there all day, and it was hot, y'all. It was in the middle of the summer out here in LA, and I was like, dang, man, come on, let's come on, man. But that's just one little kind of variable that some filmmakers don't take into consideration. So it affects every aspect of the process. Everybody on set is impacted by it, you know. That's the thing, is like, yeah, you have so many different moving parts, but everybody is like an integrated system. Everybody is impacted by like almost the smallest different change in the system impacts everybody. So that was one thing. Yeah, the choosing a location, that's kind of can be difficult, but it's cool because it's like there's so many, being that this is LA, and I think this is I learned about, because not only in my master's program, like we learned like hands-on stuff, how to make films, but of course we had to go and learn the history of filmmaking and why is Hollywood out on the West Coast. And come to find out, it actually originated on the East Coast. But as with any profession, there are splits, and you know, people want to do things their way. So you had some people like, I don't like the way they doing it, so they end up coming out on the West Coast, and they found that on the West Coast is prime location for filming. It actually got dark. See, it's today ain't really prime because it's just gloomy, but typically we know LA is like prime because it don't rain. That's the biggest factor, that it really don't get no rain, and that's a huge benefit to filmmaking. Okay, so let me see what else with set locations. Thinking of set locations reminds me of this person in the industry who actually put together this manual called the Creative Handbook, and I actually got to meet the founders of that handbook. Like, I was out in Burbank, which is, maybe I'm kind of saying too much, but I was out in Burbank, okay, and I was catching a buzz. That's where I actually worked, you know, when I was in film school or whatever. That's where we kind of like shot a lot of our scenes and stuff. And I was at the bus stop, and I met this guy, and we was just kind of chatting it up, you know. He was like, asked me what I do, and I told him like I own a literary organization, I have my own website, and he was like, yeah, and he told me about what he does, right? And he said that he and his partner, this guy, created a website and a manual, a creative handbook that basically encompasses different resources for filmmakers. Everything from places you can go buy film equipment to studios, which I think is really big. Just choosing, you know, studios to shoot in, you know, for interior scenes that you kind of want more control over. What else is in there? Like lighting equipment, everything that a filmmaker possibly, costumes, you know, everything is in that book. But what was interesting about conversation was that he was asking me, because he was like, I need some kind of help, you know. He was like, I want to put together a website for it that goes along with the book. And he had already had a website, right? I think, I'm trying to remember, this is when I first moved to LA back in 2016. And so he was asking pretty much for my advice, because I think he saw my website at the time when we were sitting waiting on the bus. And he was like, oh, it's nice. And I was telling him, so he was like, any tips you have for me? And I say, the tip that I gave him, I remember this. I say, you want to make sure your website is user friendly. That is the biggest thing. It has to, like, people, this is the thing. People create products, services, whatever, but they don't think about users. They think about themselves as a business owner, but they don't think about the user, right? Everything has to be user friendly. You got to cater to the people who are going to be using this thing. That's the most important thing. So I told him, because I remember going onto his site, and I saw the site was just, I'm like, what the hell? You got way too much shit going on, you know? I was very honest with him. It's like, it was just too much shit. Not to say having a lot of resources and stuff on a website, you can't do that. Yes, you can, but it has to be done in a way that's user friendly. So I remember saying that, and I remember actually going back to his website a couple months later, and he had revamped the whole thing. So you guys probably can go to his website now and see, like, it's a little bit different, but he has some stuff on there. The Creative Handbook. I don't know if it's a .com or what the exact URL is, but yeah, it's pretty nice, you know. I like the idea, and my school actually gave me a free copy of the handbook because it's interesting. I was like, because part of the process of when we were shooting our films, we had to get it's not a certification. What the fuck they call it? Not a license. Permit. Had to get a permit to shoot. And that's the thing. For every single scene that you shoot, I know especially out in LA, you have to have a permit for every single scene. Now, generally the permits are like upward like $600 per permit per scene, right? But for students, I think they only charge us like $25, $35. And there was an office on campus where we actually went to get these permits, to apply for a permit. And when I went there and I was chopping up with the guy who worked the office, he had a stack of the creative handbooks. I was like, damn, I remember that handbook. And this was after I had met the guy at the bus stop who actually put the handbook together. And I was amazed to see like how professional the handbook looked. It looked very like legit. But the dude gave me a free copy of the handbook, and I still own it to this day. So although I'm working towards my PhD right now, I'm gonna go back to that handbook, and I'm definitely use that handbook. So yeah. So choosing a location, sound is important. So important to make sure that you have crisp sound. They have all different kinds of sound recorders out there that are very quality. They have the low budget, of course, ones. They have the higher budget. That's the thing. You don't want to be cheap when it comes to filmmaking, being that you have so much competition, and then you have the big budget production companies who've already set the standard, which means that they have already created this expectation in the viewer's mind on what a good film looks like. You gotta rise to that standard. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. Cause they set the standard, and they know when a film is low budget. Like, trust me, go read the reviews on low budget films. Like, you don't want that to be you. Well, they coming at you like that, you know, unless you feel like, I just got this story, I gotta get it out, and I ain't got no money, I just gotta get it out. Me, I'm total opposite. I'm like, I know I have this story, but I'm willing to wait to make sure I got the right resources in place, because that's important. That shit got to be right, man. You don't want to take no shortcuts when it comes to making a film, because guess what? Your viewers will let your ass know. I'm telling you, they will let you know, man. And that's going to affect your brand. Now, unless it's like your first film, I guess you get a little bit of leeway, but you can't be on your 10th film and still kind of taking shortcuts and producing this low budget shit. When I say low budget, I mean, you can tell from the actors to every aspect of it that I already talked about. The camera, like, the people can tell. The location and the sound, all of that. So definitely making sure you have a good mic, the sound, right sound equipment, that's important. Oh, and scheduling. I want to talk about, it's so many different, I know I'm going to miss something, y'all, before I end this video, but I do want to talk about scheduling, because it's a program that is actually designed for scheduling and budget. Now, the name, I can't remember the name. I do have access to it, but I can't remember the name. That's why I should have took notes. And I usually do my videos just off the cuff, so I don't like notes so much when I do my videos, because I'm like, I give y'all the raw me, you know, uncut, unedited. But there is a program, y'all can look it up, Google it. You know, there's a program that filmmakers use. I'm talking about big budget film producers use for budget and scheduling. And on that program, like, everything is kind of laid out. They have templates and stuff for everything, like for a film, and you can put in like how many actors, how many crew members, you know, like all of this stuff you can input, and you can input like how much it costs, and it's going to like tell you everything, and you can lay out like your schedule, your shooting schedule, so you just know like where everybody is at a certain given time, date and time. Everything is just planned out right there, you know. And then it allows you to print out these sheets, right? These scheduling sheets and these budget sheets and stuff. Most important, well, both of them are obviously important. No, neither one is more important than the other, but the most important one, I guess, to the actual production of the film is the schedule, because like I say, time is money. You got to have that shit mapped out before you go on set. You can't just be on set and be like, all right, let's call this. No, you got to have everything pre-planned. And so there's a program for that. And I kind of want to throw that out there. But let's see, what else? I know I'm missing something. What else? I ain't really talk about costume, but yeah, this is psychology. It's a costume design and what people wear. Oh, speaking of that, like, that reminds me of the film that I saw last night, Kinky, and how the guy, who I thought was a dom, but come to find out he more of like, I don't know, a switch, maybe more like a submissive. But they had this man wearing like some quarter length pants, and I'm like, I know he can't be a dom wearing no quarter length pants. And when I say quarter length, I mean like pants that come maybe like 6 inches from his ankles. I'm like, hell no, man. Even though he was kind of dressed like somewhat semi-business casual or whatever, but I'm like, that ain't nothing about that quarter length shit speak to the fact that he's supposed to be dom. And if it did, I'm like, So that's just one example how, yeah, it matters. The colors, we know there's a psychology of color. Colors, on people's clothes communicate a certain message. So every aspect. And with that being said, sorry you guys, I am a little bit tired. What I didn't talk about is post-production, like editing. Even like with my film school, they had us doing, like, when I say every aspect, like, we got experience in every aspect. So I even edited my own pre-visuals that you guys see on my website at danielleach.com/films. And I hate it. It's so it's so strenuous. It's tedious. It's so time consuming. Big shout out to people who edit and post production like that. Oh my gosh, that's a really important part, because in like editing is like storytelling. Believe it or not, every aspect of filmmaking storytelling, whether you are a person who works in the costume design department or lighting or cinematography, or you're the actor or the director, the writer, and even editing, you are responsible for telling a story. And obviously, your story that you tell, it should align with what the writer director has in mind. But sometimes, depending on the writer director, the other people who are in different departments in the film process, they kind of get some freedom to kind of to add their own creative touch, so to speak, to the film, which is a good thing, they kind of add their own kind of contribution to be able to kind of tell the story through their lens. And that's what a great editor does. Yes, he's supposed to stick to what the script says, but a great editor knows that, they bring something to the table, and they kind of enhance the story. But with that being said, I think I want to end on that note, because I do have some work to do for my practicum, and I'm about to start writing my dissertation lit review. Oh, and speaking of, like, I got a story I'm gonna just share with you guys briefly. So I'm not gonna reveal the person's name, but he is an actor. He's a stunt guy, and he's a producer, filmmaker, and he's actually in the process of developing a documentary that speaks to the conscious community. And he reached out to me yesterday. in an email, and he said some things, and I had to correct him, because first of all, he called me a YouTube personality, and I'm just like, hold on, dog. I ain't no YouTube personality. Don't call me a YouTube personality. Yes, I make videos and vlogs for YouTube, but I am not a YouTube personality. That is not my identity. But yeah, he was just kind of, he didn't say it in a bad way. He was just saying, that's how he came across me, that he see that I'm I have a presence online, and, I'm just great. He was just giving me props or whatever. But I just had to put it out there, because it does matter how people see you, because they begin to speak to, who you are, and that can affect your brand, So I had to let it be clear. Okay, if you looking for YouTube personalities, then I'm not it. But if you're looking for someone to contribute to your film, because he's basically reaching out because he was trying to solicit my interest in his new documentary and having a speaking role and being a part of it. And I'm like, okay, sounds interesting. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much all I'm going to say about that. But I just find it interesting. People have been reaching out to me and they want me to collaborate with them on their film projects. And I'm like, okay, first and foremost, I have to let people know I am a PhD student in a clinical psycho. Look, y'all, it's time for me to end. But I'm a PhD student in a clinical psychology program. How about I say clinical psychological? Totally don't go together. But yeah, and so that's my main priority right there. And I have 3 more semesters left in my program, which includes me finishing up my dissertation, which includes me conducting a study and, doing this write up. First and foremost, okay, I start with doing the dissertation, and then I submit my proposal to my institution review board ethics committee so that they can review it and make sure my research is ethically sound. And then I actually go and do my study, which will take place around summer next year. And then when I do my study, I collect all this data. And then in the fall of next year, I'll be analyzing the data and doing my write-up. And then spring 2020, I'll be defending my dissertation, and then the same year I will be moving on, like just moving on. That's all I'm gonna say. But hey, my life is busy. It's a full-time program, yes, and yes, I do these vlogs on the side. Yes, some people say I do it for fun, but I take it seriously because obviously this is part of my brand, Danielle. And so that's it. I have priorities and I make that pretty clear so people don't think that, oh, I just got all this time. And then when I tell them, I don't have time, they don't get offended because don't take it personal. I'm busy. So if you come at me, you better come at me talking some, But Daryl, I see your question still sitting there. So you said that you do you do text or just keep the camera rolling? What? Let me go back to your question, Daryl. Have you ever filmed a nude scene? What crew was in the set? Do you do takes or just keep the camera rolling? Okay, first of all, I never filmed a nude scene. I have, like, in practice, kind of filmed this scene that was somewhat violent, I guess you can say. You guys can see what I filmed on my website at danielleleach.com/films. But I never filmed a nude scene. Now, in my research and looking at all these special features on all these movies that I've seen, from what I understand, that is not what y'all think. So some people think nude scenes involve like sex, like fucking, like they're actually having sex for real. And unless the actors know each other and they agree on it and sign some kind of waiver, no, y'all, they are not having sex for real. They're just having movie sex, and movie sex is just simulated sex. So they actually wear certain types of they cover up, like, obviously their genital areas so that it's not touching, the other actor, but they cover it up with, like, they use different things. And that's another thing I didn't really get into, like the real magic of filmmaking, because it's amazing how they achieve the end goal and making these shots that they get. There's so many different things they do, and that's the thing. And the rule in filmmaking, like I said earlier, it's a mantra: do whatever it takes to get the shot. So you'll be amazed at things that they end up doing just to get the shot for this particular scene that they're shooting. And so they usually will cover up either with tape or something that is going to make sure that the people's genitals aren't touching. And the actors are nude. What you see is true. They are naked, but it's not no penetration, or that would be porn, and that's not what they are into, unless, like I said, the actors agree upon it and they sign like some type of permission or waiver. But what did you say? Okay, so yeah, I think I answered your question. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, you want to know anything I did not address here, I will try to answer your question to the best of my knowledge based on my own personal experience and exposure to the filmmaking process. But with that being said, I do have to go because I gotta get some food in my body. But I will catch you guys in the next vlog, and thank you guys for watching.